Great to see you. Thank you for being here. And this workshop is facilitated by Campbell H. And this study relies on you to listen. But please, we pray that you have your big book in hand and follow along with a pen, pencil, or highlighter and make any notes as you go along. And pause if you need to. Write down any questions and we'll take them at the end of the meeting. We'll keep everybody muted during this workshop, except for the facilitators. Any inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated and you will be removed by one of the co-hosts. This meeting is being recorded, the audio portion only, and only of the facilitators. The recording will be shut down at the end of the workshop before taking any questions in order to preserve your anonymity. So have a great meeting, and how we start this meeting is with a step 3 prayer found on page 63, if you care to join me. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Thank you very much. And over to you, Campbell.
Okay, thank you, Brother Dan. No doubt about it. Happy Sunday, peeps. I'm a recovered alcoholic named Campbell, and welcome to our Keystone Big Book International meeting, workshop meeting it is. So today, I had on my mind about 30 minutes ago, today is our co-founder, Bill Wilson, birthday. So we're going to celebrate. We're going to talk about Bill a little bit and some of these ideas he incorporated and come up with this 12-step program of recovery, which it has been working since 1935. Though everybody that take the steps, they may not, we recover from alcoholism, right? We ain't recovering all of our lives. We do recover from this thing. That's the hope and the promise that this 12-step program gives to all of us. My personal experience, I was in and out these rooms for over 3 decades. And I still kept drinking. Sometimes I'd disappear for a year, 2 years, and I'll come back, go to a meeting, because they kept saying, meeting makers make it, this and that, don't pick it up, you can't get drunk. All that just made me drink again. I didn't have no solution. But thank God, when I ran into this Keystone group, first part of 2020, I commenced to take the steps, and I recovered from alcoholism because it created this change deep within. And it was sufficient enough for me to recover from alcoholism. That's what this program does for a real alcoholic of my type. Because see, I'm the real alcoholic they describe in this very book. The alcoholic that's deemed as hopeless as Bill Wilson was. Same with Dr. Bob. He was regarded as a hopeless alcoholic as well. I know I was hopeless because everything I tried in the world, it didn't work. So just a little bit about old Bill. Bill was born in 1895, November the 26th, 1895. Wow. And he was born in East Dorset, Vermont, to Gibbon and Emily Griffith Wilson. In the middle of a snowstorm and behind an area that had a bar of his grandparents' inn. Wow. So he was born with a bar close by. Shoot, okay then. So, but then this birth of this man, it produced what was later Times Magazine. They honor Bill as one of the most influential people in the 20th century from the production of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where the program of recovery is found. It's found in this big book. In the first portion, we'll get to that sometime before the meeting is over. So people in the fellowship, the fellowship is not the program. There's a huge difference, right? The fellowship, which I struggled in for so long without being introduced to the program, kept me drunk on a daily basis, man. I go to them meetings, I leave out the meeting drinking. I said, shoot, that meeting ain't do nothing for me. Shoot, let me go get me a drink. Shoot, well, that's what we alcoholics do. If you're the real alcoholic of our type. That's our solution to every problem in life is another drink. So a little bit more about old brother Bill. From the rubble of a wasted life, Bill overcame alcoholism and he founded the 12-step program of recovery that's helped millions of us today You know, we recovered from alcoholism because of this man and him reaching out to Dr. Bob, which is our other co-founder. And the big book tells us the spark that set the flame. And I'll go to the page on that, which would be in one of the forwards here. I'd like to touch on that a little bit. So we'll go to the forward to the first edition. Nope. Hold on. Let me get my page number here. Forward to the second edition on page XV. In the bottom paragraph, it reads, the spark that was to flare into the first AA group was struck at Akron, Ohio in June 1935 during a talk between a New York stockbroker, which is Bill Wilson, our co-founder, and an Akron physician, which would be Dr. Bob Smith. That is our other co-founder. 6 months earlier, the broker, we're talking about Bill Wilson again, had been relieved of his drink obsession by a sudden spiritual experience following a meeting with an alcoholic friend who had been in contact with the Oxford groups of that day. The friend they talking about would be Ebby Thatcher. Bill and Ebby was good friends. They went on a lot of drinking escapades. Anybody not familiar with the Oxford group? It was just organization because they was finna lock up poor Ebby up that day. But then some members from the Oxford group came to court with him. And the judge released him to their custody. Again, Bill had been greatly helped by Dr. Silkworth, a New York physician who specialized in alcoholism, and he is now counted no less than a medical saint by AA members, and whose story of the early days of our society appears in the next pages. So it was from Dr. Silkworth that Bill Wilson learned the grave nature of alcoholism. Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford groups, he was convinced of the need for more inventory, confession of personality defects, restitution to those harmed, helpfulness to others, and the necessity of belief in and dependence upon God. No doubt. That's the key word, dependence upon God. I know in the program it talks about a higher power or power greater than ourselves, but it mentions God over 300 and some times in our basic text. God is the one who solved my alcohol problem. And it had to be a personalized experience, right? Not just some made up God. Today I have a personal relationship with the God who created everything in the universe. And it solved my alcohol problem. So Bill Wilson was ex-military. He was a second lieutenant, and he didn't think twice about when the first butler he had ever seen had offered him a drink. 22 years at the time, he didn't think about how alcohol had destroyed his family. You know, when we growing up, you know, we see these our family members, they may be drinking, seem like they be having fun and all this kind of stuff, but in reality, alcoholism destroys people, they destroys families, they destroys all our relationships. So then, Bill, at one point, Bill talked in his story, it talks about this temperance movement, you know, and Bill, he wouldn't accept that either. No. And we'll get to a temperance movement later on, or they may be in a whole nother meeting. So he didn't think about none of this stuff at all. So Bill wrote this. You know, I got this language of the heart and all that stuff with me. He said he had found the elixir of life. Wilson's last drink 17 years later, when alcohol had destroyed his health and his career, precipitated an epiphany that would change his life and the lives of millions of other alcoholics. Incarcerated for the third time, some people say it may be 4 times, he went to Towns Hospital. You know, in 1934, Bill Wilson had a spiritual awakening, a flash of white light, a liberating awareness of God that led to the foundings of Alcoholics Anonymous and Wilson's revolutionary 12-step program of recovery, the successful remedy for alcoholism. Yes, the 12 steps will solve our alcoholic problem. You see, in my drinking career, I tried everything in the world on my own to solve my alcohol problem. Shoot, I tried self-sobriety. I tried self sobriety. I tried detox centers, mental wards, all that good stuff. Hospitals, jails, institutions. Oh no, talking to a psychiatrist, doctors, ain't none of that stuff worked for me. Shit, I'm a real alcoholic, man. Shoot, without a solution, I'm gonna drink again. I sit there and tell the psychiatrist anything, but he wasn't gonna stop me from drinking because I was running on self-will. I said, I can solve my own problem. No, I couldn't. So after 40 years of drinking, introduced to the program in 19, introduced to the fellowship. I take that back. Introduced to the fellowship in 1983 when I was a soldier myself. I looked at them people and I said, shoot, I ain't going back to that place. They ain't gonna help me buy my alcohol. So I don't need to go to no anonymous meeting talking about alcohol. They ain't gonna help me. They was taking an hour out of my drinking time. So no, I didn't want to accept that I needed help because I was young at the time. Had been in the military for 3 years and these people telling me I need to go to this Alcoholics Anonymous. And then when I get there, I find out they want you to stop drinking. Shoot, I wasn't ready to stop drinking then. Shoot, no, gung-ho soldier. I wasn't finna hear that, man. So, and then this 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, this led to many other 12-step programs around the world, and it can solve all our problems. See, I had other problems too, but Alcoholics Anonymous, by taking these steps, it solved all my other problems. You know, not perfect. We all make mistakes every day because we're human beings, right? But this program offers something. We got a power greater than ourselves today, and that's the key. Once we have this vital spiritual experience, I gain mine through information and a working relationship. Some people say we got to work this step and work this step every day. No, I took the steps that were suggested by the book. I was took by this book line through line, and I recovered from alcoholism. A day when something crop up, I was always taught to live. And step 11 every day, and it covers all the previous 10 steps plus step 12. And it covers a variety. I used to hear in the fellowship, I have people, they used to tell me I got to work step 1 every day and stay sober. But if you're working step 1 every day, it means you got drunk last night and you got to rework the step. So I couldn't get an understanding out of that. But what is the problem is with step 1? The problem with step 1, I couldn't keep myself sober no matter how hard I tried. No matter how great a necessity the wish was, it just simply didn't work. And without a solution, we alcoholics, we gonna drink again, no doubt. So a little bit more about old Bill, and we're gonna dig into some other things. Basically focusing on Bill a little bit today because this is his birthday, so we're gonna celebrate his birthday, man. Shit, I appreciate what Bill Wilson did for an alcoholic like me, man. Because shoot, imagine the millions of alcoholics that died of alcoholism and had no idea what was wrong with them. Some people say, oh, you can't handle your liquor. You're a weakling. No, in fact, I was a sick fool. That's what the heck I was. I was suffering from something that a human being couldn't accomplish for me. It took. I'll be beyond human age. See, when I took one drink, I couldn't stop. I had to drink everything in my sight, and then when that run out, I'm going to get some more. The allergy kicked in. When I got a physical allergy to alcohol. When I take one, I got to have a million. And it gets worse. As time went on, drinking went on. It got worse and worse over the years. This stuff is progressive. It's an illness we suffer from, and it is fatal. And without help, as the big book says, it is too much for us, no doubt. I was beat down by alcoholism, towed up from the flow up. Shoot, I didn't know what to do. Just another drink always fix my problem. That's all I could think about. I live for it. So, Bill went to some of these meetings in the Oxford group, right? And like I say, it was an evangelical society founded in Britain by a guy from Pennsylvania named Frank Buckman. Oh yeah, see Bill also, see that's come from a religious group, right? Talks about evangelicals. So, but this is a spiritual program, right? So Bill couldn't adopt all the tenets from this Oxford group. And thank God that he didn't, because if he'd accepted the tenets from that group, which I'm gonna go over a couple of them in just a minute. And a lot of them ideas, though, he incorporated in his 12-step program. He also tried Bishop and Belladonna Pure. That's written in his story. That was the state-of-the-art the treatment that they had for alcoholism during that time. He also had help, as Roland Hazard had help. Carl Jung was around at the time to help Roland Hazard. Then this guy named William James wrote this book called Varieties of Religious Experience, which Bill read in the hospital. 5 months later, Bill took a trip to Akron, Ohio on business. The deal fell through. And he wanted a drink so bad that I can see Bill, I can picture Bill now. He was in the lobby at the Mayflower Hotel, right? It's a business trip. So shoot, quite naturally, when a deal don't go right for us alcoholics, the first thing we want to do is take a drink. Every time something went bad in my life, shoot, I'm running, I'm gonna knock somebody over to get me a drink, thinking it's gonna solve my problem. Shoot, next thing you know, somebody had to pick me up off the floor because I fell out, passed out, because the allergy kicked in. Boom. But then the malady tells you in the mind, oh, just get one. It's time to get a drink now. You didn't get this contract, did, so let's drink it. Let's drink about it. Shoot, then it just makes all the problems even worse. So Bill standing in that lobby that night up in that Mayflower Hotel. He was being enticed by them sounds at the bar. See, back then, the bars they call a gay crowd. It's mentioned in his story right here. But a gay crowd is a happy crowd. Today, they consider gay crowd as something totally different, right? But back in this time period, it was a happy crowd. Seemed like everybody was having fun. Music was playing. But then Bill had this sudden thought. Tempted by that bar, no doubt about it, because we alcoholics, we see people having fun and drinking. Shoot, the first thing is going to hit an alcoholic. Shoot, I got to have one too, so I can feel like them. But that was my mentality. Used to see other people drinking. Shoot, give me a drink. Shoot. So then Bill had this thought. Suddenly, the thought that by helping another alcoholic, he could save himself. So through a series of desperate phone calls, he found Dr. Bob. But Robert Smith was his real name. And Dr. Bob is our other co-founder. He was a skeptical drunk whose family persuaded him, well, give Bill 15 minutes. Let him talk to you for 15 minutes. Oh, Dr. Bob snuffed at that idea for a long time, so finally he agreed. Yeah, I give him 15 minutes. But that meeting ended up lasting for hours. I think it was roughly 5 hours they ended up talking. Bill had found somebody just like him, Dr. Bob, a hopeless alcoholic. And a good thing about it, right? Bill wasn't even 6 months sober at the time. So he took the message that he learned to another alcoholic, and he commenced to get both of them together. So a month later, Dr. Bob had his last drink, and that date was June 10th, 1935. That's when this spark was set on fire and produced the first AA meeting. Oh my goodness. So, but then Bill, the Burnham House, this is a Burnham House, it became a safe haven for drunks, right? So Bill got to that meeting. He said, my name is Bill. I'm an alcoholic. So he told the guests and other people at the meetings to spread the word. He began writing down his principles for sobriety. Each chapter was read by the Clinton Street Group and sent to Smith or Dr. Bob for more editing. The book had a dozen provisional titles. Among them, just imagine, this book could have been called A Way Out or The Empty Glass, but then it was finally called Alcoholics Anonymous. Wow. Beautiful stuff. So a little bit about see now today, as I mentioned, there are more than over 2 million, 2.1 million, I think is the last count I got, of members in AA, and it's held in over 150 countries today. And languages, I think the last count is pretty close to 100 languages. It may be 100 languages today, spreading the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. Very, very important stuff. Yes. So now we got Bill's story in this book, and it's important that they put this in the front of the book, right? So we can relate. Because Bill Wilson wasn't the first alcoholic that ever lived and died, right? However, he was the first one to document his life, and then came up with a program of recovery to help us real alcoholics of my type. So I remember first time I read about Bill's story, I thought, well, shoot, I'm not like this dude. I ain't no darn stockbroker. I ain't got no darn money. I'm just a little young buck. I like to drink. But see, so then we think to ourselves, well, he might be an alcoholic. You know, if you read the story, then you know they came out with the movie years later. My name is Bill W. So we could see, well, look how this fool acting. Well, I'm acting like that fool too. So, but then we also can think, well, shoot, I don't live up there in New York. I couldn't be no alcoholic. Only people live in New York is alcoholic. I ain't no alcoholic. I live down here in the South, down here in Alabama, where they got all this corn whiskey, but I ain't no alcoholic, though. I just drink every day. I ain't no alcoholic. Then I joined the military. Same thing like that. I ain't no alcoholic. Shoot, drunk as a skunk. So then we can also think, well, I ain't no stockbroker in the 1930s. Like Bill Wilson was. How can I be alcoholic? Some people might think, well, I didn't go to war, but, you know, I did. Personal experience. I am a war veteran myself. You know, even some women be telling me, well, ain't no man. Shoot, I ain't no alcoholic. I can't identify with Bill Wilson. Shoot, he a man, I'm a woman, so we totally different. But then it's excuses that we real alcoholics make, so we full of excuses. We might even say, well, shoot, I ain't never drank that bathtub gin they were talking about. I can't be alcoholic. No. But then I remember guzzling down pints of liquor at one, open the bottle and turn it up and drink the whole darn bottle before I let it down. I can remember doing that as a darn teenager. And then it got worse as it began on. But the importance of Bill's story, what I'm getting at, is to identify with Bill rather than to compare ourselves with Bill. And it's great they put this story in this book. So then once I learned, well, I need to see if I can identify with this man. Am my drinking habits anything like his? Can I stop myself when I get ready? Or can I stay stopped? No, I couldn't do none of that. No, no, no. So identification is very important. So when I was being taken through the 12 steps, I was told to pick out things. Well, actually, we studied the whole thing. But pick out something that we can identify with in the way Bill thought, and the way Bill felt, and the way Bill drank. Do I have these similarities? And I came to realize, yes, I had all the same thing, the symptoms as Bill had. Yes, when I sat there, I remember Bill sitting at the table one time. As a matter of fact, in the mood, the people, when he was getting that job, well, they ended up firing him though. But they were sitting there drinking and drinking. They offered Bill a drink or two. He turned it down once or twice. When that third time come around, yeah, I had one now. Boom, then it was over with. Business deals used to go bad. So, looking at Bill's story, the first 8 pages of Bill's story, it deals with his drinking and his alcoholism. So, but then Bill came up with a statement like this. Matter of fact, on page 1 of Bill's story, on page 1, he says, I was part of life at last, and in the midst of excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and prejudice of my people concerned in drink. He forgot the strong warnings he seen when he was a child, right? I seen these warnings, and I couldn't relate to it. No, I said I'll never be like that. I'll never be like that. But the key word in Bill's experience, in our experience, we discovered liquor. And then Bill made the statement on the very next sentence on page 1. I was very lonely and again turned to alcohol. Loneliness was always an excuse. Loneliness, boredness, all of that was still an excuse to get another drink. So, along working with Dr. Sitworth in the hospital, Bill, he acquired some certain ideas, and maybe he can pass these conceptions on to another alcoholic. His ideas was a program of recovery. You know, Ebby had came to see Bill, and he presented some of these absolutes. I want to talk about a couple of these absolutes. Well, actually, it's called the 4 absolutes in 12-step recovery, and it gives I'll give you a little bit of history on it. As I study the study of AA history reveals that many of its principles and practices came directly from the Oxford group, and especially from the Oxford group's 4 standards of honesty, purity, unselfishness, and love. See, Bill acquired these ideas through that group, right? That Oxford group was that religious group that I was talking about. And Bill remarked these very words about the 4 absolutes when he said the 4 absolutes, as we called them, were the only yardsticks we had in the early days before the steps. So he was quick to add, I think the 4 absolutes still hold good and can be extremely helpful. I have found at times that a question arises and I want to do the right thing, but the answer is not obvious. Almost always, I measure my decision carefully by the yardstick of absolute honesty, absolute unselfishness, absolute purity, and absolute love. And it checks up pretty well with those 4. Then my answer can't be very far out of the way. Now, this little reading I just did from Bill, it came from an AA pamphlet number 53, the co-founders on page 17. So, AA's co-founders, along with its pioneer members, a lot of them found their sobriety within the Oxford group. And Bill also credited the group with no fewer than 10 of the 12 principles he later codified into the 12 steps that we go by today. No doubt. Thank God for that. So, what did we learn about moral inventory? Amends for harm done. Turning our wills and our lives over to God. What did we learn about meditation and prayer and the rest of it? The spiritual substance of our remaining 10 steps came straight from Dr. Bob's and my own early association with the Oxford groups. That's found in Bill Wilson's book, The Language of the Heart, page 298. So now we can see how important these principles from the Oxford group came to be to the AA program of recovery. And these 4 absolutes eventually became the 12 steps. And all our 12 steps are guiding principles for recovery. And trust me, it works. It really does. Ain't no doubt about it. So the absolutes, they never became a recognized part of the AA program. And in part, this was because AA didn't want to be identified as an offshoot of the Oxford group. And because Bill Wilson, unlike Dr. Bob, feared the absolutes would scare off alcoholics by presenting them with unachievably high moral standards they may not be ready to accept. Yeah, that would have ran off a whole lot of alcoholics. You talking about telling an alcoholic to get honest? Shoot, they ain't gonna do it. They're gonna be ready to get drunk. They gonna lie to you. They're gonna steal, cheat, whatever they have to do. So instead, the big book authors chose to focus on the opposites of these standards, cautioning us to watch carefully for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And that's a big part of our program today. Because you see, a lot of these things that block us off from a power that's greater than ourselves, and it's hard to solve our problem like that. See, even in step 4, right, on page 67, it talks about self-will. And it discusses selfishness, dishonest, self-seeking, and then it talks about being frightened, right? But then the absolute for these would be when we're doing God's will. See, the big book tells us every day is the day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. So instead of being selfish, we become unselfish. Instead of being dishonest, we become honest. Instead of self-seeking, we become pure. The attention is off ourselves, and we lure ourselves into helping another alcoholic. So instead of becoming frightened about situations, places, and things, we no longer fear no more. We can show love to other people. The fear goes away. Love overrides fear every day, every moment of every day. So down. So a little bit about understanding these absolutes. Since Dr. Bob and many of the Akron and Cleveland area pioneers continue practicing the absolutes throughout their lives, it might be helpful to examine briefly each of these 4 moral standards. Absolute honesty. I did a talk the other week a little bit about honesty. See, we have to get honest today. The first step of me being honest was I had, after 40 years of drinking, I had to get honest with myself and tell myself, man, you cannot stop drinking on your own. You can't control the amounts you take. Are you crazy? Get honest with yourself. You know, and the big book tells us to try some controlled drinking, right? See if we're an alcoholic or not. Shit, every time I tried controlled drinking, that first drink, I was already out of control. So, absolute honesty, it consists of several things. No lying. See, we got to get honest. We lied to people. We lied to our families. We lied to our employers, our friends. We lied in all our relationships. We lied to get what we wanted because we were self-seeking. No cheating, no stealing. And then it means practice these principles in all our affairs. That was the talk Dan did a little bit last week about practicing these principles. It means in all our affairs. We can't practice being honest in one area of our life, and then the next area we lying, or we cheating, or we stealing, or we manipulating, right? Or we alcoholics, we some great manipulators. We'll manipulate your pants off. We'll manipulate and cut your pocket off while you standing there talking to us. That's how us alcoholics is. When we want that drink, we're going to do whatever we could to get it, right? So, no falsehood. In other words, we got to be completely honest. So, we see, we can look at things today. Is it true or is it false? Wow. See, at a certain point in the alcoholic's drinking career, we couldn't distinguish the true from the false. Not whatsoever. Once we can get honest with ourselves a little bit, then we start to see these things. When the fog starts clearing up, we can see a little bit of what's going on in life. And also another tenet that talks about absolute purity. Purity of mind, purity of body, purity of the emotions, purity of the heart, sexual purity. See, there's a 4-step inventory on our sex relations, right? You see, as we go through the step, important step. By the time we get to step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And it talks about the power to carry this out. Well, we take the rest of the steps. We clean up ourselves. We do steps 4 through 9. And then, of course, those are our maintenance steps. That's when we clear up the wreckage from the past, we make amends to people. And somewhere in between, we should be done develop some kind of personality change, or better known, the big book calls it a psychic change, a revolutionary change in the way of our thinking, the way of our living. All these things change by being absolute pure. See, when we do our inventory, we got to get honest with ourselves. We do the inventory on us, not the other people, because we are the ones that normally wrong them. And then when they retaliated, we blame them. And then I go get me another drink, right? Boom. Another thing I bring is the 4 absolute unselfishness. See, seeking a key point I want to bring out here. Today, we want to seek what is right and true ahead of what I want in every situation. See, during our drinking career, it was always about us, what we wanted, selfishness, selfish clown. When I wanted what I wanted from you, I was going to go at it. I was going to try to get it to the best of my ability. I didn't have no thoughts, feelings, or emotions about how the other person cared or felt. No, alcohol had me blinded, and it has us all blinded. So And then think about step 3. We make that decision. And then we take the rest of them steps. It's going to bring us, it's confirmed in step 12. So by the time we get 3, and then we go take the rest of the steps and get to 12, we done had that spiritual awakening as the result of taking these steps. Now we try to carry this message to other alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. And then we go back to step 2, right? It says came to believe. And a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. No doubt about it. And that'll bring us on to step 11. Step 11, that's the step that we all have to live in step 11 today. So the unselfishness. We draw away from self-seeking, self-indulgence, self-centeredness, self-sufficiency, self-will. To some extent, we become God conscious. The big book brings that out. So that's a beautiful part of it. And it talks about absolute love. That's the 4th tenet of these 4 absolutes come from the Oxford group. Loving God with all your heart, with all your soul, and your mind, and all your strength. Loving your neighbor as yourself. This came from the Oxford group. See, and it's also, like I said, the Oxford group was a religious group. Alcoholics Anonymous is spiritual, but these words come out of my favorite book in the whole world. It's a holy book, right? But I don't preach religion in this meeting format here. That's for a different meeting. But these very words are in there. So in the pamphlet, the pioneers asked, is it ugly or is it beautiful? They stated, we have tasted a little and we are hungry for more. As alcoholics, we, like the pioneers, we need more. The only thing our souls find satisfying enough to satisfy our craving for meaning, wholeness, and purpose in life. That thing is love, and we have come to know truly that God is love. Well, he got to love us in order to give us this program of recovery found in this big book. No doubt about it. Shoot. Be doomed to an alcoholic death or live on a spiritual basis. They are not easy alternatives to face. We must face the fact that we are alcoholics and cannot solve our own problem. No doubt. That brings to the 3 pertinent ideas. A, we are alcoholic, could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could relieve our alcoholism. This sure could. And C, that God could and would if he were sought.
Hi, Campbell, you're on mute.
Yeah, I muted myself. Yeah. I realized there are atheists and agnostics in AA. That is just fine and dandy. I have no problem with it. But what I do have a problem with, I had to laugh it off today. And thank God I can laugh at these jokers. When somebody talk about Jesus or post a scripture, or like in one of our Facebook groups, that's not an Alcoholic Anonymous meeting, right? This is a group, a chat group. And then they get pissed off talking, oh, you bringing religion into AA. Man, look, that just upset me so bad, but I laugh it out today and I said, well, okay, I pray for you. I'm not preaching religion in my Facebook group. Now, my personal page is definitely, you come to that, you definitely gonna find, it's not religion, it's all about my relationship with God. So we all need to gain a relationship with God. Or if you're atheist or agnostic, the power that simply can solve your problem. My God solves all my problems, and I'm grateful for it. So it helps, using them absolutes, it helps. So then it brings us on, makes me think about page 58. It says, rarely have you seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. The path is a kit of spiritual tools that they laid at our feet. And that path, oh man, it worked. It's been working since 1935. Some people tell me, oh, they need maybe it's about time to update the big book, change some words, leave the words like they is. If it's something that's been working this long, let it continue to work. And then it says, those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Once again, I'm going to talk about this absolute honesty, right? It said, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. No doubt. There are such unfortunates, they are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living, which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they had a capacity to be honest. Notice that first paragraph got honest in it 3 times. Rigorous honesty. I'm talking about we got to dig deep down. Rigorous. Rigorous means hard. Rigorous can be something strenuous. So in order for us to go through the process, see, this book got a recipe we follow. We follow this recipe and we can experience what they talk about on page 67 in our very big book. And I'm going to read the first paragraph as a matter of fact, because I love this part of the book. Page 567, appendix 2, it says the term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms, no doubt. Spiritual experience, spiritual awakening, and even in this very paragraph, you can talk about personality change. You can call it a religious experience, a sudden and spectacular upheaval. There's many things to describe it. Overwhelming God conscience talks about a vast change in feeling and outlook. Wow. Thank God for this program. That's all I can say about that. Now, Dr. Bob, he incorporated some of these absolutes into our 12-step programs. He found these simple standards to be helpful guidelines for both simplifying and enriching our step work while also deepening our intimacy with God and with one another. Key word, our intimacy with God. We build on a relationship with God and we keep expanding it. In the last 3 steps, 10, 11, and 12, those are continuous growth steps. We continue to grow in knowledge and understanding of the power that's greater than us. We continue to grow and help others by taking other people through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we expand our relationship with God and other people by getting out of self and being able to help others. And this is a beautiful thing. Nothing greater than one alcoholic talking to another. That's where it started, and that is where it's still solid today. And it's grounded in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and not the fellowship. See, fellowship and program, I did a meeting on this not too long ago. They're 2 totally different things. Yeah, we can fellowship. We can go to 90 meetings in 90 days, or we can go to 270 meetings in 180 days, however many you want to go to. But just doing that, sitting in the rooms, don't keep you sober. Alcohol like me, I had to be 12 step. So today, matter of fact, next week, I'm going to start at the front of the book, and we're going to go through the whole first portion of our big book. Week by week, we'll cover much as we can. But I figure it's time to go back to the beginning. And the day was basically a celebration of Bill Wilson's birthday, and talked about where he got a few ideas from that the Oxford group. They come up with some great ideas. But I'm share personally what helps me in my recovery today, my relationship with God. That does it all. And step 11 brings out, as we go through the day, we pause, right? When we take a pause, we can stop and ask God, God help me. That's the shortest prayer we can do. When we're struggling with something, God help. Boom. He shows up. Yeah. And we begin to see people around us begin to see the changes that's being made within us. It's a change that we can produce on our own. Had to come from God, power that's greater than all of it. There's no doubt in my mind. people seen the changes in me way before I did. I had no idea. I just knew my thoughts was changing, my actions was changing, my the way I talked to people changed, the way I felt about people had changed, and I owe it all to this program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Once again, for anybody that missed, this day is Bill Wilson's birthday. So that's why I want to point these little points out today, because he got some of them ideas straight from that Oster group, man, and it produced the 12 steps. Wow, no doubt about it. So a little bit, I want to touch on something else before I go. On page XXXI, yeah, XXXI, we're going to talk about a guy named Fitz Mayo, right? In the big book it says, the patient had made his own diagnosis and deciding his situation hopeless, had hid in a deserted barn, determined to die. He was rescued by a searching party and in desperate condition, brought to the doctor. Following his physical rehabilitation, he had a talk with me in which he frankly stated he thought the treatment a waste of effort unless I could assure him, which no one ever had, that in the future he would have the willpower to resist the impulse to drink. Well, we know willpower is never enough for a real alcoholic. If we're a moderate drinker or a heavy drinker, yeah, we can stop. But a real alcoholic like me, I got this allergy in my body. My brain gets sued. See what we recover from. We recover from the malady of the mind, right? And that's when we have a psychic change, when our mind change, our guided thoughts change. We no longer sit here letting that drink take over us today because we got a defense against that first drink, found on page 43. So his alcoholic problem was so complex and his depression so great that he felt his only hope would be through what we then call moral psychology, and we doubted if even that would have any effect. No doubt. But his story, Fitz Mayo, is on page 208 in our big book called Our Southern Friend. And it's quite a good, intriguing story. Sometimes I like to read a story in the big book to see where I can relate, identify with them as well. And then they're going to tell us the problem, they're going to tell us the solution and the course of action, just like this program brings out. It tells us back here in the preface. I'll back up to the preface for a moment. Because it says, because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery. Therefore, the first portion of this volume, describing the AA recovery program, has been left largely untouched in the course of revisions made for the second, third, and fourth edition. This is the AA program of recovery found right here in the first portion of this book, including the opinions in the back. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. Happy Sunday. Thanks for being part of this journey with all of us, and God bless. And Brother Dan, we can close them out.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Campbell. It's been great to listen about those today. Bill W. and the Absolutes, thank you for your time. I have posted information in the chat on the Facebook group, the audio YouTube channel where this and all the others are stored, and also my email address if you'd like any further information on Keystone Groups. So on that, I will conclude the formal side, ready for any questions if required. So if you care to join me with the step 3 prayer on 63, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Thank you very much, guys. Amen.